Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp. My name is Glen, and today we have our monthly roundup of the 10 best scoring games for the previous month on the channel. Just to address the elephant in the room before we start, Animal Crossing won't be on this list, plain and simply because we didn't review it. We do get codes from Nintendo as a rule, but for whatever reason we didn't get one for this game, therefore obviously we couldn't score it. So without further ado, let's have a look at the 10 best scoring games reviewed for the month of March on the channel. Coming in at number 10 for the month then, we have the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon remake, which was reviewed for us by Mark. Now he found this one to be quite a slow burner, finding it quite difficult to get into at first, but it did grow on him and he found it very addictive by the end. He saw that compulsive quality of the game as a huge plus, and also enjoyed the story as well. He did feel that the game has a repetitive nature about it though that does hold it back to an extent, and that there was a lack of variety in the visuals, and some of the music can be a little irritating in places as well. With all this in mind, it scored a SwitchUp score of 70%. Next up then, our most recent review on the channel. This was Zombie Army Trilogy, which again was reviewed by Mark. This joins a host of other Rebellion shooters already on the Switch, and has of course been out on other consoles for a few years now. Mark enjoyed this one, feeling that the combat was a lot of fun, with its frenetic nature getting the blood pumping, although he did feel that the game is quite heavily weighted to be played in multiplayer, and it loses some of its luster when played in single player because of this. Even so, a good game, and it got a SwitchUp score of 78%. Next game then was One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, an enjoyable Musou type game which Mark found to have a decent amount of strategy in it. The visuals took a bit of a hit, especially in handheld mode where there was quite a bit of popping, which was unfortunate, but on the whole this was a good game and it got a SwitchUp score of 80%. The next game for the month then was one that stealth dropped onto the eShop, and that was Exit the Gungeon, which takes the basic premise of its predecessor, Enter the Gungeon, and puts it into almost a shooter instead. Despite some rage-inducing moments, the interesting weapon shifting mechanic meant that you are on for a different type of run every time you play, and Mark found this to really enhance the experience. It's certainly a very good game in its own right, and it got a SwitchUp score of 81%. One of the bigger releases for the month then, this is Saints Row 4, with the re-elected edition being released a couple of weeks ago. This game is quite frankly insane, absolutely bonkers, with the newly included superhero mechanic, one that I know divides fans, with some lamenting the change away from a more traditional Grand Theft Auto experience given in the other games, whilst others feeling it really freshened the series up and made it its own thing. Either way, taken for what it is, it's a very enjoyable open world game, and got a SwitchUp score of 82%. The next game then, and the first of my reviews for the month, this is My Hero One's Justice 2, which is a 3D, almost arena-based fighting game. I really love the colourful art style used in this game, really looks like a comic book come to life, and I love the fluidity and the verticality that was brought to the fights. The destructible environment also really just added an extra layer to this game. As someone who's never seen the anime or read the manga, I was completely lost in the story, and I could have perhaps done a little bit more to include people that haven't seen the show. A 2-minute cutscene at the start just explaining the basic lore would have done it. Plus the price was very high despite the fact that you do get a fair few modes for your money. All in all, this one got a SwitchUp score of 83%. Next we have a game called One Step from Eden, which is a game I reviewed and found a very interesting experience. This is a roguelike game that also blends in deck building mechanics with action that's quite reminiscent of a bullet hell at times as well. It's probably best described as Mega Man Battle Network with a slice of Slay the Spire thrown in for good measure, and although it's definitely a game that takes a bit of getting used to, once that early period of learning what to do had settled, I really enjoyed my time with it. It could have done more to explain the basic mechanics to you. There's a lot of figuring it out for yourself, which doesn't take long to be fair, but even so. But there is a real rhythm to the game once you get going, which really lends itself to that one more run type of mentality. This got a SwitchUp score of 83%. Into the top 3 for the month now, and the next one is La Mulana. Now I reviewed this one. I technically looked at both games together, both this and its sequel, although they're such long Metroidvania experiences that I couldn't review both of them fully. They do share many of the same mechanics, although the second one does explain things a little bit better than the first, but they are both most certainly unashamedly old school. They harken back to the days of having to draw your own map and write down clues, and the controls can take some getting used to as well, especially the jump, as you cannot move your character once you are in the air. The vague nature of the puzzles can become frustrating at times, but it also really does recreate the Indiana Jones-esque adventure that the game is going for. If you can get on board with the old school mechanics, then these are fantastic games, and they scored 85%. In at number 2 for the month then, this is Langrissa 1 and 2. This was reviewed for us by Jace, so thank you again to you Jace. And these are remakes of the 2 Langrissa games from back in the 90s. Jace really enjoyed both of these games, feeling that the turn-based tactical nature of them held up well to this day, and you could also switch between the classic graphics or a new hand-drawn style. Now I know from reading in the comments section this new style has divided some fans, and that's fair enough, but the gameplay holds up well, and despite a high price point, obviously the 2 games you're getting will last you a fair while, and it got a SwitchUp score of 86%. And the top scoring game for the month then, perhaps somewhat surprisingly, was After Party, which comes from the developers of Oxenfree, which is also available on the Switch. This is a point and click adventure game and harkens back to some of the classics in the genre, most notably those from LucasArts, albeit you control your character directly in this one. And Mark, who reviewed this one, really enjoyed the story, feeling that not only was the writing incredibly humorous, but it also took a few risks in terms of its subject matter as well. The adventure is perhaps a little short for the price you are paying, but the time you spend with the game is certainly quality time, and for this reason it got the highest score of the month with a SwitchUp score of 89%. So there you have the 10 highest scores for the month of March. Obviously we usually do this together on screen and we can both give our exact thoughts about the games we've reviewed, but the way things are at the minute with the lockdown we can't do that. The links to all 10 reviews though will be in that top pinned comment if you want any more information. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. I hope you're all staying safe, and until next time, happy gaming.